Welcome, I'm Dr. Melina Roberts, and I want to talk about 5 signs of insulin resistance. Because one of the things that I talk a lot about is metabolic health, and I've been talking about insulin resistance. And one of the questions I've been getting is, well, how do I know if I have insulin resistance? What are some of the signs that I may have insulin resistance? So I want to go through that with you. So one of those signs of insulin resistance is being overweight or having difficulty losing weight. And I know that this is a problem for a lot of people, and this can be a sign of insulin resistance. So this is, the cells of your body are just not, the receptor sites on those cells are just not working effectively, so that when insulin is around, the insulin, when it goes into those receptors, it's not allowing glucose to being able to move into the cells and make that glucose useful to the body. So instead, the glucose is just circulating outside of the cells and not being utilized because of that insulin resistant picture. Another sign is that you have high blood pressure. And this is something that often people aren't aware that they have high blood pressure. Either checking it in a doctor's office, seeing if you have high blood pressure, getting a cuff. You can really just purchase one that you can have an at-home cuff that you can check that blood pressure and see whether it's elevated. And the other one is if you go into a drugstore, typically they will have a setup where you can check your blood pressure. But that would be something that you would want to be checking. And an ideal blood pressure is around 120 over 80. And then there's definitely some other ranges, but if it's higher, like if that top number is higher than 140, and if that lower number is higher than 90, those are a bit more concerning numbers in terms of blood pressure. So that's where you want to be addressing. And one of the root causes may be an insulin resistance picture. So another sign of insulin resistance is that you may have some early signs of diabetes. So you might not be quite diabetic, but you may have some signs, because insulin resistance is really that stage that's considered pre-diabetic. So you may have signs where you feel extreme thirst and hunger, or you eat your meal and you still feel hungry. It can also be that you have frequent urination. You can also have that feeling where you have some tingling in your fingers and your toes. Another sign is that you may feel tired. You may have more weakness or fatigue than usual. So these can be some signs that you may be pre-diabetic, or that you're actually in that insulin resistant picture. Another way that you can be testing for insulin resistance would be to do some blood work, and this is to check something called your A1C. And what your A1C will indicate, it will indicate what your blood sugars are like, or what they have been like over the last 2 to 3 months. So this will give us an indication of where your system's at in terms of how it's able to regulate your blood sugars. So ideally you want that number to be below 5.7. And if it's in that range of 5.7 to 6.4, that is when you're considered pre-diabetic, but this is also typically where you're in that insulin resistant picture. And then when it's above that 6.5 range, that would put you into that diabetic range. So those A1C numbers between normal and diabetic would be an insulin resistant picture, and that's where you want to actually take control of that insulin resistance so that it doesn't lead towards that diabetic picture. And another way for us to see if you are in that insulin resistance picture would be to check your fasting glucose. Now, you can check that fasting glucose through doing blood work with your doctor, but another way that you can check that fasting glucose is if you have a glucometer, then you could do a prick of the fingertip and you could check those blood sugars after you fasted for about 12 hours. And then you can see where your blood sugar is at. So ideally, we want that fasting glucose to be below 100 milligrams per deciliter or below 5.6 millimoles per liter. Now, if your fasting glucose is between 100 and 125 milligrams per deciliter or between 5.6 and 6.9 millimoles per liter. And this would be an indication that you are insulin resistant, or they would actually put you in the category of pre-diabetic. And then the numbers that are higher than that would put you into the diabetic ranges. So these are just some ways that we would be able to get an indication of whether you are insulin resistant or not. All right, so thank you so much for watching. I encourage you to share this with your friends and family, to press the like button, to press the subscribe button, to make a comment below, and until next time, continue to learn, grow, and build health. And I'll see you in the next video.